Listen closely. Can you hear that sound? It is a soft, rhythmic beat, almost imperceptible beneath the noise of your day. It is the sound of a clock, but not one that hangs on your wall. It is the sound of time itself, counting down. For some, the final 2 minutes have already begun. For them, it is already too late. Their chance to turn back, to mend, to choose differently, has vanished like smoke in the wind. This message is not for them. They cannot hear it. This message is for you, delivered through a story of profound regret, so that you do not find yourself in their place, listening to the final seconds tick away into an eternity of what could have been. My voice reaches you now not from a place of light, but as an echo from a chasm of sorrow. A place built not by a wrathful hand, but by the slow, patient accumulation of my own choices. I am one of those souls who thought they could fix it all later. I am the voice of tomorrow. I am the result of one more day. I ignored the signs, just as you might be ignoring them now. They were not dramatic, thunderous warnings. No, they were much quieter, much easier to dismiss. A gentle nudge in my soul during a quiet moment. A sudden, unexplained feeling of heaviness when I told a small lie. A fleeting image of a person I had wronged, appearing in my mind for no reason at all. I thought I had time. I truly believed it. Time felt like a vast, endless ocean stretching out before me. My spiritual life, my moral debts, the apologies I owed, they were a distant shore I could sail to whenever I pleased. Today, I would enjoy the open waters of distraction, of ambition, of fleeting pleasures. Tomorrow, I would turn the ship. Tomorrow, I would make the journey. The shore would always be there, waiting for me. That was the great deception. The horizon I was sailing toward was not an endless sea, but a waterfall I could not see until it was too late. The error that sealed my fate was not a single monstrous act. It was not a grand betrayal or a heinous crime that would make for a dramatic story. If it were, perhaps I would have been jolted awake. No, my mistake was far more subtle, far more common. It was a quiet indifference. It was the simple, daily act of postponement. It was the habit of saying later to the things that mattered most. A small debt of kindness I failed to repay. A word of forgiveness I kept locked in my heart. A moment of truth I sacrificed for a moment of comfort. Each of these was a single thread. Alone, it was weightless, insignificant. I could snap it with a thought. But I did not. I let them be. And day by day, I added another thread. Another, later. Another promise to myself that I would get around to it. Soon, the threads became a string. The string became a rope. And before I knew it, I was bound by a cable of my own making, so thick and so heavy that I could no longer move, even if I wanted to. I had become a prisoner of my own delays. This prison wasn't built of stone and iron. It was built of comfort and distraction. The world is so very good at providing distractions, isn't it? A new show to watch. A new goal to achieve at work. A new controversy to debate. A new desire to chase. Each one was a shiny object that caught my eye, making me forget the growing weight I was dragging behind me. I filled my life with noise so I would not have to hear the silence where my conscience used to speak. I convinced myself that being busy was the same as being good. That moving forward in the world was the same as moving toward grace. I reasoned that my intentions were good. In my mind, I had already apologized to those I hurt. In my mind, I had already made peace with my Creator. I had rehearsed the conversations, planned the good deeds, and felt the relief of having done them, all without ever taking a single step to make them real. I lived in the credit of a future self who was better, more courageous, more devout than I was at that moment. But that future self never arrived. Because I never allowed him to be born. I kept him waiting in the wings, always promising his debut would be tomorrow. And so, my soul became like a garden I had promised to tend. At first, there were only a few weeds. Easy to pull. But I told myself, I'll do it this weekend. Then the weekend was busy. Then a few more weeds grew. They were still manageable, but it would take a bit more effort. I'll wait for a long holiday, I thought. Soon, the weeds were thick and thorny, choking the life out of everything good. The task became so daunting, so overwhelming, that looking at it filled me with despair. It became easier to simply not look at the garden at all. To pretend it wasn't there. But it was there. And its decay was my own. What happens when a person spends a lifetime pushing away the quiet call of their own spirit? What happens when the whispers you ignore are the only things that can truly save you? I learned that the human heart has a terrible capacity for adaptation. It can get used to the darkness. It can learn to call the weight of its chains normal. It can convince itself that the faint, dying light in the distance is too far to reach, so it's better to simply sit in the gloom. But what happens when later never arrives? What sound replaces the gentle ticking of the clock when your time is truly up? The sound that replaces the ticking clock is not what you would expect. It is not a thunderclap, not a final, dramatic crescendo. It is silence. A silence so profound, so absolute, that it has a weight of its own. It presses in on you, extinguishing every other sensation. In my last moments of earthly awareness, I was not contemplating the eternal. I was thinking about a trivial matter, an errand I had to run the next day. The world was still there, full of its usual noise and hurry. And then, in the space between one heartbeat and the next, it was all gone. Replaced by this immense, deafening quiet. In that silence, every distraction I had so carefully curated was stripped away. The ambitions, the worries about money, the opinions of others, the endless stream of entertainment, it all vanished. It was like a great storm had passed, leaving behind a landscape of stark, brutal clarity. And in that clarity, I saw myself. Not the person I presented to the world, not the person I tried to be in my own mind, but my soul as it truly was. It was a terrifying sight. The neglected garden was there in full view, overrun with the weeds of my indifference. The moment of perception was not a judgment handed down from a celestial throne. It was an implosion. All the little debts, the unspoken apologies, the moments of grace I had turned away from, they all came rushing back at once. Not as individual memories, but as a single, unified feeling. A feeling of immense, crushing weight. It was the weight of 1,000 small failures, 1,000 missed opportunities to choose light over shadow. And I understood, with a certainty that burned more than any fire, that the sum of these small choices was the final state of my soul. This is the regret I speak of. It is an awareness so sharp it cuts you. It is the perfect, horrifying understanding of your own free will. I saw, with unbearable clarity, every single moment I could have turned. Every fork in the road where I chose the easier, wider path. I saw that I was not a victim of circumstance. I was the architect of my own desolation. I had been given the tools to build a mansion for my spirit, and instead I had used them, day by day, to build a prison. There was no negotiation. There was no plea for a second chance. Because the chance was not a single moment at the end, the chance had been my entire life. Every breath was a chance. Every interaction was a chance. Every quiet moment of reflection was a chance. My life was not a long runway leading to a final test. My life was the test. And I had spent it all thinking I could cram for the exam in the final 2 minutes. But the final 2 minutes are not for studying. They are only for the turning of the page, to see your final, unchangeable score. The hell that so many fear is not a place of external tortures inflicted upon you. It is the eternal, internal state of knowing you failed yourself. It is being locked forever in the moment of realization, the moment you see the beautiful, glorious potential you were given and the squalor you chose instead. It is the unending echo of the words, if only. If only I had made that call. If only I had forgiven that person. If only I had listened to that quiet voice inside me, just once. This is the great warning. The chains of regret are not forged in a single fiery act of evil. They are woven, thread by thread, with the seemingly harmless fibers of later, tomorrow, and it doesn't matter that much. Each time you choose comfort over courage, you add a thread. Each time you choose pride over humility, you add a thread. Each time you ignore the nudge of your conscience, you add another. Alone, they are nothing. But together, they form a shroud from which there is no escape. But what were these threads I failed to break? What were these seemingly small choices that wove the very fabric of my eternal prison? You might be surprised at how familiar they sound. They are not the acts of monsters, but the quiet habits of ordinary people who, like me, believe they have all the time in the world. And understanding them is the first step to ensuring you do not weave the same pattern. Let me tell you of the threads, so you may recognize them in your own hands. One of the thickest was woven from words I never spoke. I remember a harsh argument with someone I loved. My words were sharp, born of pride and impatience. I saw the hurt in their eyes, a flash of pain that I caused. In that moment, my heart knew. It whispered, "Go back. Apologize. Heal this." But my pride answered, "Not now. Let them cool down. I will fix it later, when the time is right." Later never came. The next day, things felt awkward, but the moment for a sincere apology had passed, replaced by a fragile, unspoken truce. We moved on. Or so I thought. But that unhealed wound remained. I had a chance to offer humility and chose pride. I had an opportunity to build a bridge and instead left a chasm. I told myself it was a small thing. But that small thing became a brick in the wall between us, and a stone on my own soul. I had chosen to preserve my ego for a few hours, at the cost of a small piece of my humanity. Another thread was indifference. I remember walking down a busy street, lost in my own thoughts, my own problems. A woman, clearly distressed, dropped her groceries, and they scattered across the pavement. For a fleeting second, our eyes met. I saw her panic and embarrassment. The whisper came again, "Help her. It will only take a moment." But the voice of the world was louder. "You'll be late. Someone else will help. It's not your problem." And so I walked on. I did not wish her ill. In my mind, I was a neutral party. But there is no neutrality in the face of a simple need. Inaction is a choice. My refusal to give 30 seconds of my time to ease another's burden was another thread. A small act of closing my heart when it could have so easily been opened. I did this 1,000 times in 1,000 different ways. I scrolled past a plea for help online. I ignored the lonely coworker in the lunchroom. I kept my change in my pocket when a hungry man asked for it. Each time, I had a reason. A justification. I was busy, I was tired, I was skeptical. I mistook prudence for wisdom and convenience for a virtue. Each act of turning away, no matter how small, made the next one easier. My heart, through lack of exercise, grew weak and cold. And then there was the thread of resentment. I held on to grudges like treasures. Someone had wronged me, betrayed my trust. In my mind, I was the victim, and my anger was righteous. I replayed the offense over and over, polishing my grievance until it shone. Forgiving them felt like letting them win. It felt like saying what they did was okay. So I refused. I chose to carry the heavy, burning stone of my anger everywhere I went. I thought it was a weapon I held against them, but I was the one drinking the poison every single day. The whisper came then, too, but it was fainter. Let it go. For your own sake. Release them, and release yourself. But I held on tighter. My identity had become entangled with my pain. To let go of the grudge would be to let go of a part of who I was. I did not realize that I was sacrificing my peace for the hollow satisfaction of being right. This refusal to forgive, this choice to live in the bitter past, wove a dark, thick cord around my soul, cutting it off from the light of grace. These were my daily choices. The unspoken apology. The closed hand. The unforgiving heart. None of them made headlines. None of them would have earned me the label of a wicked man in the eyes of the world. I was, by all external measures, a decent person. But spirituality is not about external measures. It is an internal state of being. It is about the health and vibrancy of your soul. And my soul, through this diet of tiny neglects and small poisons, was slowly, quietly starving to death. And so I stood in that final, deafening silence, defined not by one great sin, but by the accumulated weight of a million moments of not quite love, not quite kindness, not quite courage. The totality of my life's small choices had created a character, a nature, that was utterly unprepared for the clarity of that silence. But what happens when that silence ends, and you are forced to face the consequence of the garden you let die? What is that final, irreversible turning point truly like? The turning point is not a gate with a keeper. It is not a trial with a judge and jury. It is simply the moment you are shown a mirror. A perfect mirror that reflects not your physical form, but the true shape and color of your soul. In that great silence, after the shock of seeing my own neglect, this mirror appeared. And in it, I saw what I was meant to be. I saw the vibrant, light-filled being I was created to become. I saw a soul luminous with kindness, strong with forgiveness, and beautiful with love freely given. This vision of my potential self was not an accusation. It was simply the truth. It was the blueprint of the mansion I was supposed to have built. I saw it standing there, radiant and glorious, and then I turned and looked at the prison I had constructed instead. The contrast was the source of all suffering. It was the realization that my own hand, and my own hand alone, had chosen the shadow over the light, the chains over freedom, the dust over the divine. The regret becomes an ocean. You don't just feel it, you are submerged in it. Every cell of your being screams with the longing to go back. To go back to that moment on the street and help the woman with her groceries. To go back to that argument and say, "I am sorry." To go back to that moment of bitterness and choose to let it go. You would give anything, for just one more chance, for just one more day, to pull a single weed from the garden. But the gates of time are closed. The past is a locked room, and you are on the wrong side of the door. This is the hell of later. It is the eternity of knowing you had the key in your pocket the entire time and never used it. It is understanding that heaven was not a distant destination to be earned, but a state of being to be chosen, moment by moment, and you consistently chose otherwise. The pain is not inflicted, it is realized. It is the natural, unavoidable consequence of a spirit turning its back on its own nature, on its own source of light. And then, you hear the echoes. You hear the echoes of all the good you failed to do. You feel the warmth you failed to share, now a cold spot in the universe. You feel the healing you refused to grant, now an ache that can never be soothed. You are surrounded by the ghosts of your better self, the phantoms of the kind words you swallowed and the compassionate deeds you deferred. They do not haunt you to punish you. They haunt you because they are a part of you that was never allowed to live. The moment of the turn is the moment you must inhabit the structure you have built. If you have spent your life cultivating a spirit of generosity and forgiveness, you find yourself in a place of warmth and light. Your soul is at home. But if, like me, you have built a place of neglect and indifference, that is where you must reside. You are not sent there. You simply are there. The environment of the soul is a perfect reflection of its inner state. My prison was of my own design, and I was its only inmate. This is the warning I must give you, with all the urgency I can convey. Do not repeat this mistake. Do not stand where I am standing now, looking at the beautiful what if, while living in the tragic what is. You who can still hear my voice, you who still feel the gentle beat of the clock, you are still at the potter's wheel. The clay of your life is still soft. You can still reshape it. You still have time. But how, you ask? How do you fight against the powerful inertia of habit and the sweet lullaby of distraction? How do you begin to tend to a garden that may already seem overgrown? You begin not with a grand gesture, but with the smallest possible act of attention. You must learn to hear the whisper again. It has not gone away. You have simply learned to ignore it. The first step is to create moments of quiet in your day. Turn off the television, put down your phone, and for just 2 minutes, sit in silence. Do not try to pray or meditate in a formal way. Simply be still and listen. Listen to the hum of your own life. In that quiet, ask yourself a simple question: what is the one small thing my soul is asking of me today? Perhaps the image of a friend you haven't spoken to in years will float into your mind. That is the whisper. Your task is not to plan a grand reunion, but simply to send a text message. Thinking of you. Hope you are well. That is all. You are pulling one weed. You are laying one good brick. Perhaps in the silence, you will feel a pang of guilt about a sharp word you said to a family member this morning. That is the whisper. Do not wait for a better time. Do not wait until you feel less awkward. Go to them now and say, "I am sorry for how I spoke to you earlier. It was uncalled for." You are not asking for a lengthy discussion. You are mending one broken thread. You are choosing humility over pride, for just one moment. The power is in the immediacy. The poison of my life was the word, later. Your antidote is the word, now. When the impulse for kindness arises, act on it now. When the need for forgiveness presents itself, grant it now. Do not bargain with yourself. Do not allow your mind to create a list of reasons why it's inconvenient or difficult. The mind is an expert at justifying delay. Your spirit knows only the urgency of the present moment. Think of your spiritual life not as a massive construction project that requires years of planning, but as a daily practice of small maintenance. Each day you have a choice. You can allow another weed to grow, or you can pull one. You can allow a crack to form, or you can seal one. When you walk past someone in need, you can choose, just this once, to stop. When you feel the familiar heat of an old resentment, you can choose, just this once, to take a deep breath and silently wish that person peace. These acts will feel small. They will feel insignificant. Your mind will tell you they are not enough to make a difference. Do not listen. Each tiny act of conscious goodness is like a drop of clean water into a murky glass. At first, you see no change. But drop after drop, the water begins to clear. Each time you choose the whisper over the noise, you strengthen your spiritual senses. The whisper will become clearer, easier to hear. Your heart, once weak from disuse, will begin to grow stronger with each exercise of compassion. Do not be discouraged by the state of your garden now. Do not be overwhelmed by the weeds. Looking at the entirety of the task will lead to paralysis, which is just another form of later. Your only concern is the single weed directly in front of you. Pull that one. Then, and only then, look for the next. This is how a great work is done. Not in a single heroic burst of effort, but through the patient, humble accumulation of small, faithful actions. This is the secret that I learned too late. The path to a soul of light is not a steep, difficult climb. It is a level path, walked one simple step at a time. The choice for heaven or hell is not made in a dramatic, final confrontation with evil. It is made in the checkout line at the grocery store. It is made in the driver's seat during rush hour traffic. It is made at the dinner table with your family. It is made in the quiet moments before you fall asleep. Your life is a mosaic, and each tiny choice is another tile. What picture are you creating, tile by tile, moment by moment? Now, I want you to consider the nature of time itself. From where you stand, it appears as a straight line, stretching endlessly into the future. This is the great illusion that trapped me. You believe you can borrow from tomorrow to pay for today's neglect. You think you can accumulate a spiritual debt and pay it off in one large sum later in life, perhaps when you are older, wiser, or have fewer distractions. But this is not how it works. Every moment is a point of creation. In each second that passes, you are actively building the reality your soul will inhabit. The present moment is the only tool you have. The past is a memory, and the future is a concept. When you say, "I will be a better person tomorrow," you are making a fatal error. You are trying to build with a hammer that doesn't exist in a workshop you have not yet reached. The only thing that is real is your choice, right now. Think of it this way. Your soul is not a static object that you carry through life, to be polished up at the end. Your soul is the sum of your choices. With every act of kindness, you are adding light to your very substance. With every act of impatience or indifference, you are adding shadow. You are not just doing good or bad things, you are becoming light or shadow. This is why the final moment is not a judgment, but a revelation. It simply reveals what you have built yourself to be over a lifetime of moments. Do not fall into the trap of grandiosity. I always thought that to be a spiritual person, I needed to do something magnificent. Go on a pilgrimage, donate a large sum of money, or have a profound mystical experience. So I waited for that grand opportunity, and in waiting, I missed the 1,000 small opportunities that presented themselves every single day. The true spiritual life is found in the mundane, in the ordinary. It is in how you speak to the cashier who is having a bad day. It is in the patience you show when someone cuts you off in traffic. It is in the choice to listen fully to a loved one, instead of just waiting for your turn to speak. These are the crucibles where the soul is truly forged. Why? Because they are real. They require a genuine sacrifice of your ego, your comfort, your time. It is easy to be charitable in your imagination. It is much harder to give up your place in line. It is easy to be forgiving in theory. It is much harder to release the anger you feel toward someone who genuinely hurt you. Do not wait for the easy, dramatic moments. Embrace the difficult, quiet ones. That is where the real work is done. That is where true character is built. You must understand that the forces of distraction will not surrender easily. The world is designed to keep you looking outward, not inward. The moment you decide to sit in silence, your phone will buzz. The moment you resolve to be more patient, you will be tested. Do not see these as interruptions to your spiritual path. They are the spiritual path. Each one is a chance to exercise your will, to choose the whisper over the noise. Each time you succeed, even in a small way, you reclaim a piece of your own soul. You affirm your identity as a being of light, not just a creature of habit. You are not fighting against some external demon. You are fighting against the inertia of your own past choices. But with each new choice for the good, you create a new momentum. The first time you choose patience over anger, it will be incredibly difficult. The 100th time, it will be your nature. You are literally rewiring your soul. So, I ask you to look at your life right now. Not your past, not your future. Today. Where is your opportunity to choose light? Is it in a difficult conversation you have been avoiding? Is it in an apology you owe? Is it in a small act of service for someone in your home? Do not put it off. Do not tell yourself you will do it when you feel more prepared or more inspired. The feeling will follow the action, not the other way around. Act now. Break the spell of later. This single choice, this one act, could be the turning point that changes the entire trajectory of your eternity. What choice is right in front of you, begging to be made? The clock whose ticking you hear is the sound of opportunity. It is the rhythm of grace. For me, that sound has been replaced by the silence of consequence. But for you, it is still playing its life-giving song. Do not let its familiarity lull you into complacency. Every tick is a choice. Every moment is a gift that I can no longer receive. The 2 minutes I spoke of are not on a watch. They are the final, breathless moments of realization when the time for choosing is over. You are living in the precious time before those 2 minutes begin. Do not waste it. Do not wait for a sign from heaven, for a thunderous voice or a parting of the clouds. The signs are already there. They are the quiet whispers in your heart, the gentle nudges of your conscience, the face of the person who needs your help. These are the sacred moments. They are the only moments that truly matter. Your life is a tapestry, and with every choice, you are either weaving a thread of light or a thread of shadow. Look at the work in your hands. What are you creating in this very moment? The pattern you weave today will be the one you wear for eternity. My story is not meant to frighten you, but to awaken you. It is a bell, rung from a place of deep sorrow, in the hopes that its echo will reach you in time. Listen to it. The choice is yours. It has always been yours. Turning signs into action. Your practical guide. In the next 24 hours. The act of immediate mending. Think of a single interaction in the last day where you were impatient, unkind, or dismissive. It may be a small thing you've already forgotten. Find that person, or if you cannot, send them a message. Say simply, "I was thinking about how I spoke to you earlier, and I am sorry. It was not right of me." Do not explain or justify. Just offer the apology. This breaks the hold of pride and acts on the whisper of conscience now. The 3-minute silence audit. Tonight, before you sleep, set a timer on your phone for just 3 minutes. Sit in a quiet room with no other distractions. Listen to the first answer that comes to you. It may be a call you need to make, a task you promised to do for someone, or a prayer you have neglected. Whatever it is, commit to doing it first thing tomorrow morning. In the next 7 days. The anonymous kindness deposit. This week, make a conscious plan to perform one act of kindness for a complete stranger, with no possibility of being thanked or acknowledged. This could be paying for the coffee of the person behind you in line and leaving before they know, adding a few extra dollars to a tip for a struggling server, or leaving a bag of non-perishable food at a local food bank donation bin. This act is a direct counterassault on the habit of indifference and builds the muscle of selfless giving. The letter of release. Identify one person or situation that you hold a significant grudge or resentment against. Take 15 minutes and write them a letter. Do not hold back. Pour all of your anger, hurt, and frustration onto the page. When you have nothing left to say, write these words at the bottom. Despite all of this, for the sake of my own soul, I choose to release you and I choose to release this burden. Then, safely burn or shred the letter. This is not for them, it is for you. It is the first step in cleaning a deeply infected wound in your spirit. In the next 30 days. The daily now log. For the next 30 days, keep a small notebook by your bed. Each night, write down 2 things. First, a moment I acted on the whisper, describing a small positive choice you made immediately when the impulse arose. Second, a moment I chose, later, describing a time you deferred a good impulse and how it made you feel afterward. This practice will build a powerful awareness of your daily patterns and strengthen your resolve to act in the present. The Bridge Restoration Project. Choose one important relationship in your life that has suffered from your neglect or postponement. It could be a family member, an old friend, or a spouse. Your goal for this month is not to fix everything at once, but to lay 3 solid bricks to rebuild the bridge. This could be one meaningful phone call just to listen, one handwritten card expressing appreciation, and one invitation to spend quality time together. This is the slow, patient work of tending to the garden of your life. Your eternity is not a destination you arrive at, but the home you are building, brick by brick, with every choice you make today. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss future warning messages. Comment what this message made you reflect on and tell us which city you are watching from. Share this video with someone who may need this reminder.